Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we're heading over to Germany once again and continuing with this kind of mini series of German beers that I've been doing for you. So today we're heading again to the Franconia region in northern Bavaria, just a little bit to the north of Nuremberg, and we're going to go to a very small village called Litzendorf, which is to the east of Bamberg. Very famous beer region in the world actually, and a very beautiful place in Germany. But Litzendorf is home to Privatbrauerei Reh, which literally means the Deer Brewery, and we're going to have a taste of their Ellertaler Zwickel beer. And this Zwickel style of beer is actually native to Franconia, so it should be a really nice and interesting review for us today, and I'll tell you more about that in the next part of the video. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link to my Facebook page and my Untappd profile, so check all of those out. Feel free to add me as a friend and like the page if you like, and there's also a link down there that will take you to my future reviews that I'll do from Privatbrauerei Reh if I do come across any more of their beer. But hopefully I will, because I've heard these guys are quite a good brewery. But anyway, as I told you, Privatbrauerei Reh literally translates to the Deer Brewery, and you can see that on the brewery labels there. But these guys, as I said, are from a small village called Litzendorf, which is to the east of Bamberg, a very famous town in the north of Bavaria, and it's a very beautiful part of Germany, so do go and check it out if you find yourself there. But Privatbrauerei Reh began with the construction of a small brewery in 1901 by Josef and Mary Reh, and in the early days the family had to store their beer in a kind of rock cellar on the edge of the forest. But in 1918 their son Hans began his apprenticeship at Brauerei Morpeter in Bamberg, and this was so that he could carry on the family business basically. But 1928 and 1929 saw the company build a new brewery and expand their operation with the opening of a new brewery kitchen, basically their Ausschank, or however they want to describe it, the brewery restaurant basically. But they produced much of their meat on site as well, because Josef was actually a trained brewer, so if you went to this place in the early days you were getting homegrown kind of pork and everything like that, which is pretty cool actually, and there's still a few breweries like that in Germany today. But in 1934 Hans married Katharina Solnier, and they took over the running of the brewery at this point as well. And during the Second World War the brewery was actually only allowed to brew beer of 2 to 3% due to the shortage of materials, and they also had their trucks commandeered by the military as well, and some of these were taken to Poland and actually destroyed, and the company wasn't compensated for this at all. So that was a little interesting point of history I found out about this brewery. But after the Second World War, throughout the 50s and 60s, the brewery enjoyed growth thanks to the economic recovery of West Germany, and they actually went on to build a brand new brewing facility in 1966. Now Hans and Katharina's children Elmar and Olga took over the duties of running the brewery and running the brewery restaurant respectively, and during this period the brewery continued to grow under their stewardship, and it continued to grow into the 1970s and 1980s. Now the brewery invested in new infrastructure, introducing a fully automatic bottling line in 1987, and they also added various new tanks and buildings to the brewery during the 1990s as well. And the brewery is actually now co-owned by Elmar's daughter, who is Anya Reh, and her husband as well, and they took over the brewery in 2001 to mark the brewery's 100th anniversary after its opening in the year 1901. And just to list the other beers you can get from these guys, they've got quite a big range actually. There's the Pils beer, the Zwickel, the Ellertaler Land beer, there's two versions of that, sorry, the Ellertaler Land beer Hell and the Ellertaler Land beer Dunkel. There's Ellertaler Weiss and the Helle Reh Bock, and also a Dunkelsbock as well. And if I'm not mistaken, from what I understood from the German text on the website, the Ellertaler just refers to one of the famous kind of hills, or that part of or that particular region of Germany, if you like. I believe the Ellertaler is a hill, so if any of the native people from Litzendorf actually watch this video, please do tell me about that and I'll make sure I mention that in the next video. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting section of this video then. So this guy is a 4.9% Zwickel beer. As I've said before, this style, the Zwickel beer, is it fits in with the Keller beers and also the Land beers, and these three styles I believe are native to Franconia, and they're all a variant of the Helles style. You have the Keller beer, which is a bit more hoppy, this guy which is a bit more malty than the Keller beer, and I believe the Land beer is even maltier than this one. So this is the kind of middle ground, if you like, between the hops and the malt. So it should be a very nice beer, and as I say, the style is native to the Franconia region. So Let me just bring up the camera and let you have a little quick look at the artwork there. You can see on here, you can see the brewery symbol there, which is the deer. As I said to you, Reh in German literally means deer. I'm not sure if that's an old Franconian word, because the Franconian Germans did have their old dialect, and even the Bavarians, the Bayerische dialect is a bit different from standard German too, so maybe there's a bit of Franconian in there. You can see the bottle cap on the top of this one, and you can see the deer on the top of that as well. Nothing on the back actually, but very nicely presented. You can see a picture of the beer on the front of the label there too, and it's actually a bit different from the other labels you'll find in Franconia. A lot of them are this kind of old style scroll that you get on the front with all the nice letters and things, so a bit different from the other ones, which is quite cool. But let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening as we get it out there, and it's pouring a nice kind of pale golden straw colour. It should be a very light and easy drinking beer, this, because as I told you, it's a variant of the Helles beer that is native to Franconia. I don't know if the other one I remember was, I think I tried the Zwergla beer, which I think was a Zwickel or a Keller beer, and that was very nice. That Zwergla is a very famous Bamberg brewery, but I've never tried this one before, so it should be quite nice. But as you can see, I'll just bring the light up and let you see the kind of colour of this beer. You can see it's poured a nice, bright, hazy yellow colour. There's a little bit of sediment particle floating around in there. It is transparent a bit. You can see my fingers behind it if I move them up and down there. There's a kind of half finger of a frothy white head, and that's going to fade away quite quickly. And there are some big bubbles just sticking towards the side of the glass there, and some smaller ones moving up towards the bottom of the head, but a little bit of sediment floating around. But overall, it looks really quite a nice beer actually, so it should be a nice kind of light and easy drinking one for us. So let's give it a smell. What's interesting about it is you can actually pick up a good bit of grassy, kind of floral, and kind of has a bit of citrusy character, or kind of hoppy characters coming out of this one, which is unusual because I thought the Zwickel beer was supposed to be a bit less hoppy than the Kellers. But I just reviewed a Keller for you. I filmed the Keller review just last night actually, and I remember it being a lot more malty than this beer, which is quite unusual. But yeah, it's a good bit of grassy and aromatic-y hop, and a bit of citrusy fruit coming off this one. But yeah, it smells really nice. You can pick up a good bit of the kind of bready and almost a bit of yeasty character coming out of this one too. There's a bit of a biscuity, slightly caramel sweetness coming out of it. But the most prominent component of the aroma in this one is definitely the grassy and floral hops, and a bit of citrus coming out of it too, which, as I say, I think it might be a bit unusual for the style, because I thought this was meant to be a bit more malt forward. But we'll soon see. We'll get on with the tasting. So this is the Ellertaler Zwickel beer from Privatbrauerei Reh in Litzendorf, to the east of Bamberg in the Franconia region, northern Bavaria in Germany. So Prost. So yeah, very light and really quite a drinkable, sessionable beer, this one. Yeah, it does come across a bit more malty than you would expect from the aroma. In the taste, it is definitely a bit more malty than the aroma lets you think. So your middle of your palate just gets blanketed with this nice big kind of white German bread flavour. That just blankets the middle of your tongue right away as you take it in. But always take a few sips of your beer before you really think about the flavour properly. You just need to let your taste buds adjust so you can pick up all the little different elements of the flavour. But yeah, you get a big bready blanket across the middle of your tongue. There is a bit of a kind of yeasty character to it as well. It almost has a bit of that Belgian-y yeasty character in it, this one. And that's something I have to admit, I do remember about the Zwickel style from the other ones I've tried before, is you do get this kind of slightly yeasty flavour from them. Maybe that's where the citrusy component of the flavour comes from, actually. But there's some biscuit. There's a bit of biscuity and caramel sweetness. It's quite mild, if you like, but that goes right down the middle of the tongue there. Quite a nice little infusion to the flavour, I would say. And you can pick up just a slight little bit of a kind of cereally or grainy flavour on this bready part of the tongue too. You can feel the beer becoming a little bit drier, but around the edges of the tongue, that's where you're getting more of the hoppy characteristics of the beer. It's quite a smooth grassiness to this one, but as you move towards the front of the tongue, it's a bit more dry and aromatic, if that makes sense, and there is a bit of a citrusy flavour right behind the very front of the tongue. You'll feel just a little oily bubble forming just behind the very front curve of the tongue, and in there I think you're getting a bit of a citrusy flavour coming out, quite a lemony citrus flavour actually, but that might be from the yeast. There is a definite yeasty presence in the flavour of this beer too. Yeah, just pay attention to that little bit, as I was saying, behind the front of the tongue. You'll get a nice little oily flavour in this one. It's quite a nice little quirk to the beer actually, so do pay attention for that. But a nice big bready, slightly yeasty beer, some caramel and biscuity sweetness right down the middle of the tongue, and a bit of a cereally presence in the malt part of the flavour too. But around the edges, as I say, a nice smooth grassy hop. It becomes a bit more aromatic as you move around the front curve of the tongue, and you do have an element of a citrusy flavour in there too. But it's a very nice beer actually. I think it's quite unusual to get that citrusy component to the flavour in a Zwickel beer, but please, the German viewers are watching from the Franconia region, please tell me a little bit more about that. I think, but in my experience, the citrus is quite an unusual component to the flavour in a Zwickel. I might be wrong though, but it's a very nice beer nonetheless. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would definitely say quite mid-bodied. The carbonation on this is quite smooth, and it does have a bit of an oily mouthfeel too, and that helps bring out this kind of citrusy flavour and the more aromatic-y element of the hop flavours in this one. But yeah, there is a little bit of dryness in the hop characteristics around the edge of the tongue, but it's quite a... The malty character in this isn't too sweet, I would say. It is more of a kind of dry, hoppy character that you're getting out of the mouthfeel, but it's got a good, nice oily mouthfeel. As I say, brings out the citrusy flavours, nice and mid-bodied, and nice smooth carbonation. So overall, it's actually a really nice beer. It's quite a good session drinking beer. If you wanted to go into the bar and have two or three beers, then this would be an ideal one to go for. It's got a lot of flavour in it, and it's quite nice and sessionable, which is exactly what you want. And as I say, I'm not sure about the fact that this Zwickel beer has the citrusy element in it. To me, this comes across as a bit more hoppy than some of the other Zwickel beers I've had. But you know, as I always say, you can debate about styles all day. The main point is that this is a nice beer. The citrusy element in this is a bit unusual, I think, for the Zwickel style. But as I say, I hope some of the locals to this brewery will tell me a bit more about that. From what I understood, the Zwickel beer was a bit more malty, but this one does have a good hoppy presence in it. But it doesn't really matter, it's a good beer, and I would recommend that you try it. So if you find yourself in Bamberg, then take a little drive along the Ellertaler Strasse and go and visit Privatbrauerei Reh. I'm sure they produce some other nice beers as well, but this is a good one, and I would recommend you check it out. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been cool to visit another brewery in this Franconia region. As I say, highest density of breweries per head of the population anywhere in the world. I think it's about 300 breweries there, so if you're a beer lover like me, definitely worth visiting, and it's very beautiful as well. But anyway, if you have tried this beer yourself, please let me know in the comments section below. It's always interesting to hear your own thoughts on the beer. I hope you've enjoyed this beer review, and please, in the meantime, until my next review, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Feel free to add me as a friend on Untappd, and like the Facebook page as well. Your support would be much appreciated. I hope you're enjoying this German mini-series that I'm doing for you, and until the next one, slàinte for now.